everyone. Welcome to In the Middle podcast. Well, this podcast is for you who have grown weary of the increasing polarization in politics. Choo, Seong, Chinese New Year is finally over. Chap
Is it?
Gomez done.
Oh,
It's March now. Happy
alright.
March and
SST.
and happy SST Day, I guess.
Okay, happy SST Day. All right.
Yeah, a lot has happened, and I think it's time that we recap of some of the important developments in the political scene over the past few months.
Yeah.
Maybe gearing into the final bit of the first quarter of the year.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some serious stuff on the reform side of things. How do you think that our government has been faring? Yeah.
Well, I think it's still a distance to really get into the institutional reform. I think
Far from what has been promised.
I wouldn't say far from what has been promised, but I think if we are talking about institutional reform, I think it takes everybody to sit in to really make this happen. I know people have been there's some noise, especially this current versus
Protest, the recent protest, yeah.
and there are things that keep bugging the government, like these other issues that been raised, been promised to the people. But look, it's only like 1 year. After 1 year, I think there are so many issues the government need to look into it, and this reform takes time.
Yeah.
Of course, we agree to a certain extent. Things need to be improved, need to be reformed, and so on. But I think the hands are tied. The hands are tied. Like, what should be the priority to the government? The institutional reform or the economic reform? You see, it's the people's welfare more important, or the rest? Those who cannot be solved in the short period of time.
Well, I get where you're coming from, but Choo Seong, I must say that I don't think these are conflicting interests. I think that while we should focus on reviving the economy and making sure that the rakyat doesn't suffer through their ordinary lives, from bread to butter issues, to cost of living issues, to tax hikes, but institutional reform really is one of the key factors in establishing investors' confidence
Yes.
right in the country. So I see a chain effect in that as well. So maybe we may not be able to address all the suggested reforms, right, by civil society movements, maybe not all of them, but the key reforms must be in place, right? Earlier, we had the anti-party hopping laws, all right, which I think I do not know how effective it has been. It remains to be seen, and I don't want to be harsh on it, but I don't have a lot of good things to say about how it's been applied, right? I don't think it has worked on our political frogs that much, but
it's still happening.
Yeah, but at least, look into the reform on political fundings, look into the reform of separating the powers of the AG from the public prosecutor. These are key reforms. These are things that doesn't take years to come into fruition. These are things that just take political will and courage. If you want to do it now, you can do it in the next parliamentary session. If you do not want to table it this term, this time, I think within the year we can see something happening, by end of 2024.
I agree, and this should be the ongoing process.
Correct. And they should cut across political divides.
Yes, it should be an ongoing process, and those who have committed to this institutional or political reform and so on, they should keep their words. They should keep their promises and work on it. I am one of those who support good governance, integrity, and so on.
Everyone will benefit from good governance and better governance. Yeah.
So, but how are they going to do it? I think this is what we should be doing now. We have to provide check and balance. We have to look into it, monitoring the whole process, whether if they are doing it accordingly or not. And this is when we should voice out. Like those issues that you have mentioned. I mean, if we are talking about separation of power and so on, and this can be done if they want to do it now, right?
Okay. Well, We've covered institutional reform. We've covered economics earlier. I'm sure you've also noticed this one of a very, very groundbreaking decisions made by the federal court of late about a strive that MCA cannot be separated from. That is the upholding the right to mother tongue vernacular education, right? And we are fortunate and we are very happy to see that the federal court has decided to reject the two NGOs leave to appeal against the decision.
I think
Yeah.
that's not. I disagree that if you say we are fortunate. I think that is constitutional right to do so. And there's another issue that really triggered me, which is the constitutionality of our vernacular school system. I know you were directly involved. Kudos to the team, the whole team, and you yourself in advocating our this vernacular school system. I know it was a very tough and challenging task for you, but maybe you can share with everyone on this. How would this what is the way forward in our vernacular system? Because there are people who not really understand on this and still questioning on the constitutionality of this very unique system in our country.
Yeah, so I think for the benefit of everybody who hasn't been really following closely on the vernacular school case, it really started end of 2019, and early 2020, where a couple of NGOs have raised this issue and actually filed an action in the high courts, right, to challenge the constitutionality of our vernacular schools, mainly the use of mother tongue, right, in vernacular school education, and whether or not they should be subject to the definition of public authority. So if schools are considered public authority and that the purpose of those schools are for official purposes, then they should stick to the federal constitution and use the national language instead of mother tongue, right? And I think after a long legal battle, after a couple of years, in a nutshell, the Keala High Court and the Kota Baru High Courts, right, have both ruled in favor of vernacular schools and upheld the right to mother tongue education, right, in vernacular schools. And also the Court of Appeal and late last year have also made the ruling that agreeing with Keala High Court, right, and Kota Baru High Court, that vernacular schools are a product underneath our federal constitution, and also it's safeguarded by the Education Act, meaning not only do we have the right to mother tongue education, it is also the prerogative and the powers given to the ministry to maintain, right, and to continue to fund vernacular schools in Malaysia, giving parents the option and freedom to actually choose vernacular schools, besides sekolah kebangsaan, to send their children for education. So and we are also really glad and relieved that finally recently, in February 2024, the federal court has rejected the appeals by both parties who started this legal battle, questioning the constitutionality of vernacular schools. And it is a very pivotal decision because it's final, which means that the Court of Appeals decision stands, and the right to mother tongue education is upheld, and so the case should end here. So we see it as a victory for the vernacular schools, and we see it as a victory for the federal constitution because it has been upheld and respected. This right that has been enshrined in our federal constitution is finally given, an emphasis and finally given recognition, by our Court of Appeal. Yeah.
Well, I think I have to again congratulate the team that it's upholding our constitutional right in protecting our constitution and also our vernacular
Yeah.
rights in this country. But what concerned me is the racial polarization has becoming more alarming. I
Yeah.
would say alarming, and this maybe one of the major factors that people started to question and play with these kind of issues. And how do you see this?
Well, good that you pointed this out, because it's very interesting to note that, during the Barisan National Administration, for 60 years, we've never had such a challenge, like in our face challenge, in questioning, the legality and the status of vernacular schools. But the moment Barisan National lost Putrajaya, all this started brewing, and it's really unfortunate. The polarization is manifested in this form, in legal actions and lawsuits, and I just hope that it just stops here, with this decision.
But in
it stops here.
reality, people blame the vernacular school to racial polarization, disharmony, poor bahasa proficiency, and so on. How do you see that?
I think it's a very broad, stroke of a brush, painting on vernacular schools. I do not think that it is fair to put the accusation on the school systems, because if we want to argue along those lines, right, it starts at home. It starts with, education at home. How are we educating and nurturing our children as a citizen of the country, in respect of our institution and our laws, and the sensitivities, and sentiments of different people from different backgrounds. The school, it's really form, it's an argument of form and substance, you see. So we are saying that now, because people are less eloquent in one language, they have less appreciation for what's behind it. I do not agree with that, because the syllabus is standardized, is the same throughout. It's just the way, and the medium of teaching. And how long do you have that for? You have that for 6 years. When you go to the secondary schools, you go back to the main medium of teaching, right? Be it in English or Bahasa Kebangsaan. It is only for the primary school level that we have this option, we have this protection, and we have this a freedom, of different people of different ethnicity and backgrounds to choose to put their children through vernacular education. They learn the same thing, mathematics, they learn the same
history, science, geography,
exactly.
and so on.
So what is the problem? Why are we kicking up so much dust, on this? I think it's a very convenient excuse, for people who want to make an issue out of a non-issue.
If you are talking about racial or social disharmony, I would blame to those people who always, especially the politicians that come out with insensitive statements and try to spur the racial sentiment. Those are more crucial than the educational system. If you ask me, I'm one of those who started my primary education in vernacular school, and people were people disbelieve that I can speak fluent Bahasa, but I always tell and share with people that I can speak fluent Bahasa, and I'm from vernacular school system. I'm not racist, and not everyone from vernacular school system is racist, and this is very important. I agree with most of your points, but let me make it clear. The racial structure in our country, we have chosen integration above or rather than assimilation ever since we achieve or before independence. We have come to the agreement that we will go into that path. So there's no point after 60 years and then we start questioning whether we should go back to assimilation rather than integration. And this is already the structure, as the social structure in our country. And we should, I would say, look into it broadly. Social disharmony is not just because of education. It's because of the home education itself, how we perceive and how we educate our children. For example, I want to raise this. The community itself, the housing areas, even the housing area is so polarized. Nowadays, you look at the Chinese area, Indians area, and Malay areas. You see, we don't live in one place.
Okay.
How many places? How many housing areas that have really this social integration.
I think Tabantun is a good mix.
From before, right? It was from before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you ask me in Kampong, in Taiping small town, yes, we still have,
Yeah.
you know, all mix of, all races living together. So this is the problem. The social structure itself. I think the government have to look into this. It's not so much on the education. For instance,
a lot has to be done,
Yeah.
if we have to work on that.
yes.
Because
So don't blame it to the education. You see,
correct. I mean, it's all a choice, You have a choice to learn all the languages and still behave like a racist. You can also only master one language and be, the agent of unity and harmony. So I think let's stop ourselves, from making immature
Yes.
and making very, very biased and emotional statements, and I think it is a reminder, this whole development, of this vernacular school's constitutionality being challenged in court. It's a reminder of how to be or how not to be, a responsible citizen. So I hope we've all learned from this, and I hope that politicians and activists, they continue to read and understand and appreciate, the federal constitution in a very holistic manner, in a manner that combines us and not divide us.
That's very important. I think instead of looking into common values, some people choose to look into
more divisive tactics.
Just for political gains. I think that is very irresponsible, and we would encourage everyone. I think we are the ones that really
Kita harus menghentam sekeras-kerasnya.
we made the choice. What
Yes.
kind of politicians, what kind of leaders that we choose is a reflection of our choice, is a reflection of our actions. So I think we should be more responsive. I mean, we should pressure those political leaders, irresponsible political leaders, and be supportive of those who really fight for national unity instead of divisive society.
Most importantly, let's hope that more people will join this effort in holding and protecting the middle ground.
Yes.
Which is what we are all about, Seong, in the middle. And I hope that in the next episode, we get to explore deeper topics,
Sure.
that underlines and underscores, the beauty of the middle ground in Malaysia.
Yes.
Yeah.
That should be. Stay tuned.
Thank you. Yeah. Please subscribe and follow us. And we hope to deliver more contents. Bye.
Take care.